We want to welcome Senator Ted Cruz. How are you, sir?
Mark, I'm doing terrific. How are you doing?
Very lousy. You want to know the truth. I'm watching what's going on with these Democrats and Biden. Senator, let me ask you this question. Is there any area of the civil society in our culture that these people aren't prepared to turn inside out with no majority in the Senate, with the smallest majority they've had in the House in 100 years, and a president of the United States that keeps signing executive orders like he's signing his utility bills? I mean, this is frightening to me.
It is frightening, and the Democratic Party has control over the White House, every cabinet agency, both houses of Congress, and even more frighteningly, that Democratic Party today is controlled by the extreme radical left. Joe Biden is either unwilling or unable to stand up to Bernie Sanders, to stand up to Elizabeth Warren, to stand up to AOC. The people setting the agenda are the radicals, they are the socialists, and their number one priority is to entrench their power forever. They want to see Democratic control of the government for the next century, and they want to make it so that it is impossible that they ever lose control again. They believe in government, and they believe in total power, and that's what we're seeing is they're endeavoring to push that agenda using any and every means necessary.
And you know, Senator Cruz, I watched Trey Gowdy, and he said, Republicans are in no position to talk about debt. Now, by the way, I did talk about debt. You did too. Several did, sure, even during these bills coming through. But even so, it's different in kind and fact when you're in the middle of a pandemic trying to figure out ways to help people because these governors shut down these states versus now when the economy is expected to grow at 10% next quarter, where unemployment's at 6%, 9% of a $2 trillion bill is aimed at the virus and helping people related to the virus. The rest of it, or the vast majority of it, is a boondoggle. And now they have another $2 trillion so-called infrastructure bill behind it with more boondoggles in it, then a massive tax increase. What do you make of this?
The Democrats, it is all about politics and power all of the time. As you rightly noted, the $1.9 trillion porculus plan that was just passed, it's not a COVID-19 relief bill. Only 9% of the funding actually goes to COVID-19 health spending. 91% doesn't go to that. And what this bill was all about was paying off the Democrats' political cronies, their friends, and their supporters. You know, it would have been very simple to do a bipartisan COVID relief plan. And this is not theoretical. Last year, when Republicans had the majority in the Senate, we passed 5 bipartisan COVID relief plans. If the Democrats had come together and sought funding for things like the vaccine, for vaccine distribution, for stopping the pandemic, for things like providing relief to small businesses or families that are hurting, or reopening schools to get kids back to school, they could have drafted a bill that could have passed 100-0 or something close to it in the Senate. They didn't want to do that. They made the decision to go with a hard partisan bill. It got 0 Republican votes in the House, 0 Republican votes in the Senate, because it wasn't about solving the problem. It's hundreds of billions of dollars is going to bailing out blue states, bailing out their buddies in New York and California and Illinois. It's just shoveling cash. Tens of billions of dollars goes to their buddies at the teachers' unions at schools, and it requires nothing in terms of reopening the schools. It leaves schools shut down and kids not getting an education. And to show you, Mark, just how radical this bill is. So we fought it on the Senate floor for over 24 hours, stayed there all night fighting it. I introduced a number of amendments. I had one amendment that says, okay, these stimulus checks that you're sending out, they shouldn't go to criminals, to violent felons who are currently incarcerated, who are in prison. Every single Democrat voted against it. It failed by a vote of 50 to 49, by one vote. If a single Democrat had supported it, it would have passed. And so that means right now the Biden administration is sending $1,400 checks to murderers, to rapists, to child molesters who are sitting in prison. That is indefensible. They did the same thing. I had another amendment saying don't send it to illegal aliens. Every Democrat voted against it. They're sending millions of checks to illegal aliens. It is radical, it's extreme, and it's dangerous.
Oh, Lord. And it's difficult to stop them when they violate their own reconciliation process. In other words, they lack virtue, they lack integrity. They're looking for ways to circumvent the United States Constitution, to circumvent their own processes that they put in place, this reconciliation process, in order to ram through their agenda with no Republican support, meaning half the country, probably more than... Look, I'll bet 90% of Americans don't want rapists and mass murderers getting checks. I'll bet 90% of Americans don't want illegal aliens getting checks. But because the media is so in the tank, they don't really report this stuff. So the public has no idea what's going on.
And by the way, even the so-called moderate Democrats, let's say the Joe Manchins and Kyrsten Sinemas, they both voted to send the checks to rapists and child molesters. They both voted to send the checks to illegal immigrants. There are no moderate Democrats left. No. It is complete party line discipline, and it is party line discipline because it's an exercise of brute power, and that makes the next 2 years really, really dangerous because the brute power is coming from the radical and extreme left who want to fundamentally alter and transform this country.
Now, Senator McConnell said today, and he seemed pretty damn angry about it, that we are going to go scorched earth, quote unquote, if they succeed in eliminating the filibuster rule. Are there rules that you can use to slow them down and gut their programs?
Well, there are rules we can try and we can fight if they eliminate the filibuster, and I thought Mitch gave a good and important speech on the Senate floor today saying we will fight using every tool we have, and we need to follow through on it. But I got to tell you, the fate of the Republic, as astonishing as it sounds, rests with the two Democrats I just mentioned, Manchin and Sinema. Both of them have said publicly that they will oppose eliminating the filibuster. The filibuster means that it takes 60 votes to pass legislation and not 50.
Are you able to stay, or do you, Senator? Are you able to stay, or do you need to go?
Yeah.
All right. I want to get into this, then I want to move to immigration and your op-ed. We'll be right back. We have Senator Ted Cruz with us. Senator Cruz, the southern border, what's happening there is absolutely inhumane, particularly to little kids, some of whom are being sexually abused. We have a big increase, we're told by the Border Patrol, of this the narco mob active on the southern border. All kinds of things going on down there now. People with not just COVID-19, but all kinds of illnesses that we've defeated in this country coming through. Joe Biden won't visit the border. His administration is lying about what's taking place there. His administration will not call it a crisis. We have absolute anarchy. They're overwhelming the Border Patrol. They're overwhelming ICE. It's as if they're effectively defunding them through the back door. What are your thoughts about this?
Well, it is a crisis at the border. It is getting worse and worse each and every day, and it is the direct result of decisions made by Joe Biden and this administration. When Biden came in, he immediately halted construction on the wall. He immediately reinstituted catch and release, which means now when illegal aliens are apprehended, we let them go and give them some court date in the future and ask them to show up. And a whole bunch of them we know are not going to show up. He also ended the Remain in Mexico policy. This was an incredible foreign policy victory that the Trump administration had negotiated with Mexico, that when Central American migrants who had come through Mexico tried to come into this country, that they would remain in Mexico while their cases were processed. Joe Biden threw that international agreement in the trash. And not only that, he ended the policies of not releasing illegal immigrants who were risks for COVID-19. He ended that for kids. What's the result? We've seen a surge in illegal immigration. Just today, the Secretary of Homeland Security says, quote, "We are on pace to encounter more individuals on the southwest border than we have in the last 20 years. This is the Biden crisis. We're in particular seeing a spike of unaccompanied minors, little boys and little girls handed over to human traffickers who are physically abusing these kids, who are sexually abusing these kids. It is a humanitarian disaster, and the reason it's happening is because Biden said if the kids get here, they get to stay. And I'll tell you, as a public health matter, Mark, so they're releasing illegal immigrants. In Harlingen, Texas, those illegal immigrants are testing positive for COVID-19 at a rate that is 7 times higher than the U.S. population. And yet, because of politics, because the Democrats believe these illegal immigrants will vote Democratic. The public health doesn't matter, COVID doesn't matter, crime doesn't matter. It is ollie oxen free and open borders, and it is dangerous, and it will keep getting worse as long as this administration refuses to enforce the law.
And you touched on something, Senator Cruz, that I strongly agree with you on, and that's this. They really want to change the demographics of Texas and the rest of the country. It's all about the Democrat Party. It's not about the country. It's about their power base. It's about funding their base, redistributing wealth through their base, expanding their base. It's about flipping Texas from a light purple into a dark blue like so many other states, and that's where their focus is, period. And the human tragedy down there. Joe Biden won't visit. Joe Biden won't hold a press conference. He announces he's going to have one in 9 days, so people stop asking about a press conference. By the way, Senator, is he having a State of the Union address where he can read off a teleprompter? Is he doing that?
I have no idea, but he refuses to ask questions, and the press doesn't ask questions. I can tell you next week I'm traveling down to the border. I've been to the border many times. I organized a delegation of senators to come down and see the detention facilities, meet with Border Patrol, meet with the Border Patrol Union, meet with the leadership there, and see firsthand what's happening, the overcrowded facilities and the public health risks that the Biden administration is allowing. And for them, it is all about politics, and it's all about power. You know, you combine this open borders policy with the bill that they call H.R. 1. It was the very first bill introduced in the Nancy Pelosi-controlled Democratic House. And what is their first priority? It's not COVID, it's not jobs, it's not schools, it's not kids. Their first priority is maintaining Democratic control forever. So this is an election bill that strikes down every photo ID law in the country, that makes it easier for felons and criminals and illegal immigrants to vote, and that sets the stage for making it impossible to ever defeat Democrats. That is their priority. They want to facilitate voter fraud. They want universal mail-in balloting. They want ballot harvesting, and it is all designed to ensure that Pelosi and Schumer are in power no matter what, and the voters can't change it. That is taking away your right to vote and my right to vote, because they want illegal immigrants and criminals to dilute your vote and keep them in power. It's the greatest attack on voting in American history, and they dress it up as a reform, and if you oppose it, they say you're a racist. It is the most sickening kind of demagoguery imaginable. Now, you wrote an op-ed recently about the Olympics in China, and I'm curious to know, for you to expand on that. Well, there's some Republicans talking about how they believe we should boycott the Olympics in China, and the Biden administration has suggested they're open to this idea. Now, listen, I will yield to nobody in terms of being a China hawk. I think communist China is profoundly dangerous. They are murderers. They are torturers. They are running concentration camps with over 1 million people in it right now, and nobody has led the fight harder in the Senate against communist China than I have. That being said, I think the idea of boycotting the Olympics is really, really dumb. Jimmy Carter tried it. He did it. It was a mistake then. It didn't work. It didn't hurt the Soviet Union. But you know what hurt? It hurt our athletes who had spent their lives training to compete, and it punished them in a way that I thought was grotesquely unfair and impotent. And I think the answer is not boycott the Olympics and hurt U.S. Olympians, hurt U.S. Paralympians. Instead, the answer is go over there, speak the truth, call out the Chinese oppression, call out Chinese communism. Don't kiss their behind, speak the truth, and also go over there and kick some commie ass and take the gold medals home. Do them both at the same time. Now, will men who identify as women be able to participate in women's sports in the Olympics, or how's that going to work with the Biden mandate, his executive order that he put out, I wonder? Well, thankfully, we got to sort through this, Senator. The Olympics historically has not allowed biological males to compete in women's sports. You don't remember the East Germans, do you? I can't remember. But you know what? They do testosterone tests, and if you test too high, they don't allow you to compete. The difference, so Biden and the Democrats want to mandate biological males can compete in girls' sports, which would have the effect of dramatically weakening, if not destroying, girls' sports. You look at Title IX that has allowed girls and women to compete competitively, develop discipline, learn all the benefits of competitive athletics, and yet if you have biological males competing, we've seen where that happens, that girls' sports gets crowded out. It's not fair. You know, Heidi and I have 2 little girls. You know our daughters, Mark. It's not fair for them to compete against biological males. And today's Democratic Party values politics more than reason or common sense or fairness.
And you're talking about the Civil Rights Act and the additions to it, and they're using Title VII to attack Title IX. And this is the way the Democrats do it. And he did it by executive order, just like Obama did. Doesn't come to Congress. There's no deliberation. Things are done fast. They're done stupidly. In other words, they're done to undermine the kind of system that we're supposed to have in place, where the people get to talk to the representatives about what they want and what they don't want. But it's very curious to me.
Their number one priority is structural reforms. It's why they want to pass H.R. 1, which I call the Corrupt Politicians Act. It's why they want to add 2 states, D.C. and Puerto Rico, to get 4 new Democratic senators. It's why they want to pack the U.S. Supreme Court. If they end the filibuster, they will pack the court. You and I have both written, as you know, my latest book, One Vote Away, How a Single Seat on the Supreme Court Can Change History. Oh, yeah. It outlines how so many of our fundamental rights, free speech, religious liberty, the Second Amendment, are hanging in the balance by a single vote. If the Democrats end the filibuster, they'll pack the Supreme Court, and they will take away your rights and my rights.
All right, Senator, we wish you all the best. Keep fighting, and thank you. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you, my friend. God bless.
And God bless you, too.